Guten Morgen, Bear Nation. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear, BearIndependent.com. You know that. It's Monday, and the world's a little weird, and we're going to do the brief today. We're going to do it, the brief, in a slightly different way. If you've ever been around for coffee time with Bear, it's a little bit more laid-back conversation, less read the script, more conversate. And that's what we're going to do this morning because it's my show and I get to do whatever the hell I want. So, cheers, coffee. Now, before we get started, I would like to publicly congratulate Brandon, not FJB, but Brandon on the Patreon page. We did a raffle for a custom Bear field knife from Fleming Fabrications. It's gorgeous. We raffled it off to raise money for Caleb House, just taking bids on Patreon. And Brandon won with a bid of $11,000. So, dude, bless you. Thank you. That's absurd in the best way possible. I really appreciate it. So thank you. Now, to everybody who's new here, if you enjoy this show, subscribe, ring the little bell icon. For everybody who's not new here, you know the show. Please help us grow the audience by sharing the show with somebody that you love. Okay? Okay. You've built nothing, shown nothing. You're fake. Oh. Hide user on this channel. Happy Monday. So that's fun. You've built nothing and own nothing. You're fake. Okay. I can see a kitchen island that we've built from here. Pretty sure we took down 12 trees yesterday, and just moments ago I was on the porch that I built by hand.
Yeah. That's a freaking couch troll.
Couch troll. My wife said you're a freaking couch troll. I like it. Don't feed the trolls. That's where all those Cheetos go, to feed the couch troll.
And the missing socks.
You probably built the wall behind you. Actually, my wife did. So, and if that's my weaker vessel, what does that say about me? Flamethrowers for snowflakes. Happy Monday. Minuteman for Jesus. Amen. I guess we're here now. Whatever. Let's see. Bear Independent Brief 20 March 23, which, by the way, Bear Nation, celebrating 12 years with the love of my life today. So,
Shalom, Bear Nation.
praise Yah. Authorities waited almost 4 months before telling the public that there was a sizable leak of nuclear waste from the Xcel Energy Monticello, depending on who you are, nuclear power plant in Minnesota. Roughly 400,000 gallons of radioactive water leaked in November, and nearby residents are just now learning about it. It should be clearly stated that the leak was contained at the plant site in Minnesota and was determined not to pose any health or safety risks to the surrounding areas. Moreover, the amount leaked did not surpass the amount necessary to require an announcement to the public. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency said in a statement that the contaminated water did not reach the Mississippi River and that there was, quote, no evidence at this time to indicate a risk to any drinking water wells in the vicinity of the plant, end quote. Xcel Energy has committed to continuing to, quote, gather and treat all potentially affected water in the Minnesota area while regularly monitoring nearby groundwater sources, end quote. One Xcel Energy representative wrote in an email, quote, we understand the importance of quickly informing the communities that we serve if a situation poses an immediate threat to the health and safety of our community. In this case, there was no such threat, end quote. State officials also kept silent while waiting for more information on the leak. While authorities may have determined that the situation is properly contained, regular Minnesotan folks simply don't feel that they can safely trust those who took charge to look out for them, especially after all these freaking train derailments this year has weakened everybody's trust in the system, One resident quipped, it happened in November. It would have been nice to know since we live right next to the freaking power plant, end quote. So, little update from Minnesota. and 400,000 gallons of nuclear waste contaminated water that's spilled. Now, so XL Energy is saying, listen, did we leak 400,000 gallons of irradiated water? Yes. Was it a BFD? No. Now, the question is, where did it leak, right? Because they're saying it leaked for sure. But Jeffrey R8 said it's about 15 miles from me, The question is, where did it leak? Because while the XL Energy Monticello plant does sit on the Mississippi River, where did it leak? Because the way, in a nutshell, the way that nuclear power plants work is that they circulate water through the plant, and that water is used to do two things, because the nuclear material inside of there gets super duper hot. And so they circulate the water around the super duper hot. Think of a really big water heater, okay? And that hot water turns into steam, and that steam is then put into pipes, and the steam spins turbines. The turbines are attached to generators, and the more power you need, the more steam you make. For Caleb House, thank you, Arius Wins. By the way, it's Caleb with a K, but I appreciate you. So you need more power, you make more steam, which spins the turbines faster, which makes more electricity. So the question is, where did it leak? They also circulate that water around the reactors to keep them cool so that they don't go into a meltdown. Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, anybody? Yeah. What was that Asian one over there in Japan? Fukushima. Thank you, Donnie, honey. You're so wonderful. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
So much love for you.
My question is, are they drinking the water?
Yeah, so that's very Aaron Brockovich of you.
Yes.
Are they drinking the water?
Yes.
Well, here's the point that I was going to make. They have containment ponds at these facilities. They're mandated by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to have containment ponds. That if they have water that they suspect has been leaked, they can divert it into these containment ponds where it will be dealt with. It'll be held until an environmental cleanup crew comes in there, cleans up the water, and then they'll take that water, they'll suck it out, they'll drill a hole in Texas, and they'll dump it into the hole in Texas like they've been doing forever and an age. So it's possible. My point here is, knowing what I know about nuclear plants, it's possible that they did have a leak and that they diverted that water into a containment pond and it never ended up in the Mississippi River. It's also possible that they had a leak and it 100% leaked out into the Mississippi River. So getting to the point here of systemic collapse and a lack of trust in the system, the only word we have to go on is XL Energy's word that everything's fine. And that requires us to take them at their word, which most people are not really interested in doing nowadays. What's up, Okies boss, and all the other blue wrenches in the chat? They have to constantly run cool water over the towers at Fukushima. If they stop, it will reach critical mass and it will explode. Yep, that's how that works. So one of the things, if we ever enter into a grid down scenario, people should be super duper aware of, there is the likelihood, I'd say high probability likelihood, that a lot of our nuclear plants in the United States of America melt down. And nuclear plants are required to have at a minimum one source of backup generation. Many have their own small coal-fired or number 2 diesel or natural gas power plants at the nuclear plant. And that is the natural gas power plant or coal plant is used to power the nuclear plant, okay? Because they must have constant electricity at the plant, that if the plant ever goes into shutdown mode, they can restart the pumps immediately, because if the pump stops circulating water around the reactor melts down and we have 3 Mile Island everywhere. So it's a big deal. But if those secondary power plants at the nuclear plants go down, like say a high altitude electromagnetic pulse, a HEMP, or solar flare, Carrington type event. We done for people. So something, just, happy Monday. Happy Monday, something to think about. Now, what everybody really wants to know about: Trump supporters have been urged to remain peaceful should Trump be indicted this week. Allegedly, that will be tomorrow. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who seems to be, that's my show, I can say what I want, who seems to be an epic piece of shit. Former Vice President Mike Pence said, quote, "The violence that occurred on January 6th, the peaceful protests where people let other people into the Capitol building, the violence that occurred on January 6th, the violence that occurred in cities throughout this country in the summer of 2020. You mean Antifa, bro? Black Lives Matter? In the summer of 2020 was a disgrace. The American people won't tolerate it. And those that engage in that kind of violence should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." With assault cell phones. That's right, John Connors. Yep. It was pretty assaulty there on January 6th. And this is the thing to remember right now, this January 6th narrative from jump, from moments after that protest began. One of the primary critiques that I had about the protesters who were there, and I will readily admit they have a First Amendment right to redress their grievances to their governing authorities, but they did a very poor job of painting the picture, taking control of the narrative, and that allowed the mainstream media to get out front. Good morning, Patriot Plumber. I fact-checked it, and that's what it says about Pence. All right, good. No, he is an epic piece of shit. That's good. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your diligence. But that allowed the mass media and everybody else to take control of the narrative. So if you ever endeavor to do something like that, you have to understand what your talking points are before you do it. You need to be able to convey, to explain what you're about, right? Well, since then, January 6th, the now over a year since that's happened, 14 months or so, the narrative is being constantly changed and swayed that this is worse than 9/11. Really? Because I watched 9/11 happen. It was pretty friggin' bad. Like 3,000 people died. I don't know. We got involved in this little thing called the GWAT afterward. It was bad. It was bad. Worse than Pearl Harbor, they're saying. Oh, it was worse than Pearl Harbor. Okay. The thing we have to remember is that most, if not all of us, watched this happen on television, and no, it wasn't. It was not that bad. It wasn't even really bad. Did some people misbehave and do some dumb things? Yeah. Did 3,000 people die? No.
But the generation that they're trying to persuade,
that's the thing,
doesn't know.
The generation that they're trying to persuade doesn't know. Didn't watch it on television, didn't see it happen. So they, the big they, are trying to rewrite history in our faces. So you'll hear a lot about like never forget, which is interesting because the people who love to scream never forget, a lot of them are Jews who talk about the Holocaust in World War II, yet they support liberals who take away their rights to defend themselves. I don't understand that whatsoever. What are you boogieing over there about? Monday morning dancing in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Dig it. Large ogres roar. Agreed. All right. So the narrative is being changed in our very faces. We watched it happen on television. I believe we were live as it was happening.
On January 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I believe we were live as it was happening. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Or maybe a Blue Wrench can look that up and find that. But we watched it happen. It was not worse than Pearl Harbor. It was definitely not worse than 9/11. It was honestly a mostly peaceful protest. Back to Pence. Those that engage in that kind of violence should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Okay. You mean like how there's still people in federal penitentiary right now because they were at the Capitol building on January 6th? Whatever. The former president's prosecution, aka Trump, has been highly politicized, and just this last Saturday, he wrote on Truth Social. He wrote a long thing on Truth Social, but it ended with the words, quote, "Protest, take our nation back," end quote, in anticipation of a possible arrest on or soon after Tuesday. Now, this apparently, there's people also trying to make a lot of hay out of this, that Trump is calling for a national insurrection if he's arrested. I don't think so. I feel two ways about that. The first is everybody has a First Amendment right to redress your grievances to your governing authorities. And you should take advantage of that. Should you show up with rifles and plate carriers? Unless you really enjoy living in a concrete box, I would recommend against that. See the video that posted yesterday on this channel, the militia versus the government. Okay? I wouldn't recommend that that's the tactic that you use. But there's nothing wrong with peaceably assembling and saying, yo, this is BS. MAGA Sasquatch, or whatever his name is was just walking around talking to the police. The video that Tucker played didn't look very violent to me. I agree. And that's one of the things that has been a blessing with what Tucker has been doing lately with these video releases of what happened on January 6th. You can see it with your own eyes. No, it wasn't Pearl Harbor. No, it wasn't 9/11. They got a tour of the Capitol building. So, but there's a bunch of the blue-haired leftists are saying that Trump is calling for action when he states, protest, take our nation back. Okay. It's unclear just how possible the arrest really is. Trump has not been notified of any arrest, and his travel plans have not been canceled as of this time, so this may just be more of the usual political circus. Still, if there's any possibility for protest, then there is a potential for civil unrest and both social and political backlash. I would keep an eye on this, not only because it's super interesting to me, but also because the potential political societal ramifications for this are huge. If there are follow-on protests, if Trump is arrested and there are follow-on protests, and those people who protest get jammed up, get arrested, it's a huge indicator for me as far as how far we have fallen, how much of Rome is on fire. How about Maxine Waters when she said burn it down? Great question, Robert Winslow, but see, she plays for the other team, so we don't have to prosecute her. She's not calling for violence. She just meant, philosophically burn it down, I'm sure. In other super duper interesting news around the world, Xi Jinping arrives in Moscow. Xi is the president, air quote, of Russia, and he's meeting with Putin, who's the president, air quote, Xi's the president of China, Putin's the president of Russia, air quote. But also, it appears that Putin is not immediately meeting with Xi. Dmitry Medvedev, former president and now top-ranked douchebag in Russia, I forget his exact title, is meeting with Xi. Chinese President, this is from Russian propaganda, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Moscow on Monday, that's today, for a 3-day state visit to meet with the Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. During the summit, the two sides will discuss strategic cooperation in the energy and military spheres, as well as the Ukraine conflict. Xi said he was happy to be back in Russia after landing at Vnukovo Airport and stressed the importance of strong relations between Beijing and Moscow, not just for the nations themselves, but also for the wider international community. Brilliant bonehead, bless you. Thank you. Appreciate that. My mouse is dead. Oh, well. The Chinese leader asserted that together with Russia, his nation is ready to, quote, defend with resolve the UN-centric international system, end quote. That's interesting. The United Nations, which most people would argue is Some people argue is a paper tiger. Some people say is ruling the entire world, including the United States of America. Good morning, Hans. Shalom, brother. It might be somewhere in the middle. As much as I hate gray area, I don't. Vladimir Putin. Thank you, Jason Lord. I will never think of his last name the same again. Some people say they are the overlords. Some people say they're nothing. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think that they endeavor to set policy for the entire world. But it's interesting that China's purpose, according to Xi, is to, quote, defend with resolve the UN-centric international system, end quote. So both Russia and China are on the United Nations Security Council. Russia has allegedly been suspended from the Security Council because of their special military operation in Ukraine. It's not a war, it's a special military operation. I wonder ramifications of that going forward as far as the United Nations is concerned, considering the special military operation in Ukraine, as well as China's ambitions in the South China Sea. Now, we know BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and many others at this point, is only gaining strength as we continue to go to a more of a dipolar world as compared to an undefined American hegemony around the globe. My ultimate thoughts on that, honestly, I think that's something, as we continue in this dipolar world, I think that's something that's actually good for America, if we can endure. I'm talking about at the citizenry level, for us, if we can endure. We need more American manufacturing. We need more American security and resilience. We don't need to be the policemen of the world. Thank you, Martin Benjamin. I appreciate you. I love you back. We don't need to be, morning, tribesmen. We don't need to be the policemen of the world. We don't need to go spill American blood and spend American treasure everywhere in the world to defend peace, which is really just like, crony capitalism at the end of an M4 barrel. Or in many cases, is crony capitalism at the end of an M4 barrel. So, as this world continues to segregate into this dipolar world, the American hegemony over here and BRICS over here, in many ways, it's good to have a strong enemy because that forces us to be better, right? My oldest daughter last night came to me and she said, Dad, I need some of your time. I'm like, all right, what do you got? She said, I want to start a nonprofit. Okay. I definitely don't know everything there is to know about that, but I do have a couple of them. What are you thinking, kiddo? She has an awesome history teacher. Awesome history teacher. And her history teacher, a couple weeks ago, asked everybody in the classroom to stand up and take their hoodies or their jackets off and look at the tag inside of the jacket and say, all right, where was it made? Vietnam, Philippines, China. And so her awesome history teacher started explaining, well, in China, the likelihood that garment that you're wearing or those Nike shoes that you're wearing, those were probably made by an 8-year-old. And on and on and on. And this teacher spent an hour talking about child labor. Our Heath, bless you. And the impacts that child labor has on the global economy and the impacts that the global economy has on child labor. That really hit my oldest daughter right in the feels. This is part of why, right? Like people talk all the time about, well, you need to take your kids out of public school. I agree with that asterisk. We are blessed. We have an awesome public school. I know many of the teachers personally. I trust them with my kids. If I didn't trust them with my kids wouldn't be in their care, right? It speaks to the quality of education and the quality of instruction that our children are getting at this particular public school, which is just a small, no-name school in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and I love it. But my oldest daughter for 2 weeks has been unable to shake the mental image of kids doing work for nothing. And so she wants to do something about that. She's 15. She wants to do something about that. Talk about like proud dad moment. Raise them up in the way that they should go so they do not depart from it when they are older. She's like, I want to start a nonprofit so I can raise awareness to combat child labor. I'm like, kid, you're amazing. That's amazing. Good job. Like, that's amazing. Like, she has more ambition than most adults that I know. That's amazing. And I say that because we need to, depending on who you ask, double to triple the manufacturing footprint in the United States over the next 5 to 10 years. That's good for us. That's good for Americans. Do things cost more? Yeah. The jeans that I'm wearing came from Origin, Maine. They're $100 jeans. Those are expensive jeans. But the cotton came from Texas. It was cut and sewn in Maine, right? And then it was shipped to Oklahoma. Americans did that. That's awesome. The socks on my feet come from Hickory, North Carolina, covert threads. Every stitch, every thread made in the United States of America. We need that. We need that here in this country. And so, on the one hand, the security threat that Russia, China, that BRICS represents is massive. On the other hand, the opportunities that BRICS represent are massive as well. And I think we focus too much on the negative side of things rather than the opportunities that are presented. And maybe it's just me and my entrepreneurial mind. Like, we don't have problems, we have opportunities. We're not messy, we're challenging, right? And so if you apply enough personal responsibility and stewardship to any situation, you can turn what seems like a mess into something beautiful, something wonderful. Yeah, Steel City. Damn, even my 511s are made in Bangladesh. Yeah. Infantry 91 said my Ford was made in Mexico. Yup. There's a strong likelihood in the near future that more and more manufacturing is going to be done in Mexico as more and more companies nearshore from Southeast Asia because of the threat of war and because of global supply chain and because of Xi Jinping and his cult of personality, that they nearshore to Mexico because Mexico has cheaper labor than China does nowadays, even with child labor. Mexico has a relatively educated workforce, and they're right next door to us. And so I'm no fan of illegal immigration. I'm no fan of nanny state. I'm no fan of spending our tax dollars on people who aren't American citizens. But I am a fan of a robust American economy. Not that I want to whore with Babylon. I don't want to be part of this system, but I want to have the opportunity to extract capital from the system so that I can be as prepared as possible when this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket, so that I can raise up my children in the way that they should go so that they do not depart from it when they are older. These are opportunities that are presented to us. And so I think BRICS has the potential to be, from a security standpoint, very dangerous. But from an economic standpoint, I actually think it could be a good thing because it forces us to do better. We've had it easy for too long as Americans. We've forgotten what it is to earn your bread by the sweat of your brow and the blood of your hands. So back to this Russian propaganda. The Chinese leader asserted that together with Russia, his nation is ready to, quote, defend with resolve the UN-centric international system, end quote. The two countries would endeavor to, quote, abide by true multipolarity and foster a multipolar world with democratized international relations to encourage the development of global affairs in a direction that would be more just and rational, end quote. BRICS. subverting the American hegemony. Later in the day, the Chinese leader is scheduled to hold an informal meeting with Putin, which will focus on, quote, key and sensitive issues, end quote, according to Russian presidential aide Yuri Yushkakov. The main round of talks, however, will take place on Tuesday, with the Chinese leader also expected to meet with Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin. Later, the Russian and Chinese delegations will hold negotiations in an expanded format. In total, Moscow and Beijing are set to sign a dozen documents outlining bilateral cooperation, including 2 major joint statements. Russian officials previously said that the historic visit, which comes at a time when relations between Moscow and Beijing are at an all-time high, should give new impetus to bilateral ties. At the same time, Moscow expects the summit to be businesslike and unburdened by any additional ceremonial things. The Ukraine conflict is expected to loom large on the agenda. China has not condemned Moscow's military operation in the neighboring country, nor taken part in Western sanctions, while repeatedly calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that after Xi's visit to Russia, he plans to speak to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a bid to play a more prominent role in mediating an end to that conflict. So there's the possibility here that Xi Jinping gets to put a feather in his cap by being the one who negotiates peace between Zelensky and Putin, which of course is thumbing his nose at UN and the American hegemony. Possible. We'll see. NATO's standpoint is that, and again, agree or disagree, you don't have to agree. I'm just telling you NATO's standpoint. NATO's standpoint is they want to fight this war against the Russians in Ukraine so they don't have to fight the Russians anywhere else, which is why 196 billion of your taxpayer dollars have been poured into that country. So that, and honestly, a lot of that hasn't gone directly to Ukraine. It's gone to American defense contractors to replace the inventory that's being burnt up in Ukraine. And then the money that is going to Ukraine, a lot of that is interestingly somehow getting washed, laundered, and funneled back to the United States of America to certain political entities here in the country. So it's not in the U.S.'s best interest, at least their stated purpose, for the war in Ukraine to end anytime soon, because certain politicians are getting kickbacks from this. American defense contractors are getting money, and the idea is to bleed Russia dry in Ukraine so they don't have to bleed them dry anywhere else. So if Xi was able to negotiate a peace between Putin and Zelensky, that's kind of a big FU to the Americans. The splitting wood count as PT. Depends on how much wood you split and how you split it. I would say if you do it for 45 minutes or more, you get your heart rate up and you got a good sweat on. Yup. I've oftentimes split wood as PT. You definitely do work using a log splitter, but you do a lot more work using a splitting maul. 12 cords of wood will last a winter. Depends on where you live, Jay Pershing. But yeah, that's what I burnt in upstate New York throughout the winter. And now also briefly, related to the war in Ukraine, another bit of Russian propaganda. Moscow opens criminal case over Putin warrant. Russia's investigative committee says the ICC prosecutor and judges acted illegally. So the International Criminal Court has filed charges against Putin for war crimes. Well, Russia's courts are filing charges against the ICC, the International Criminal Court, for bringing false allegations. On hour 3 with an axe. Yup, that's PT. What's up, Tommy Salter? Shalom, bro. The International Criminal Court prosecutor and judges who issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin, so know that happened, have become the targets of a criminal case, Russia's investigative committee announced on Monday. In a Telegram post, the committee said that it had opened cases against the ICC prosecutors Karim Ahmad Khan, as well as judges Tomoko Akane, Rosario Salvatore Ayala, and Sergio Gerardo Ugalde Godinez. Who comes up with these names?
I don't know, but it's pretty powerful.
It is like, jumping through hoops over here to even attempt to pronounce some of these names. Khan sent a petition on 22 February to the ICC pre-trial chamber to obtain warrants for the arrest of Putin and Russia's Commissioner for Children's Rights, Maria Lvova-Belalova, whom he accused of being responsible for, quote, illegal deportation of children from Ukraine, end quote. His petition was approved by the aforementioned judges whose names I cannot pronounce. Now, there's a lot of OSINT chatter about the illegal deportation of children from Ukraine. Allegedly, and who knows, because reporting coming out of that region of the world is skewed at best and inaccurate at worst. But allegedly, more than 1 million Ukrainian children have been taken from Ukraine and have been moved to Russia. The argument being that Russian demographics are falling apart and that they need more children to prop up their demography. Well, so they're, rather than making more, or in addition to making more children, they're just taking children from Ukraine and raising them as Russians. Is that happening? I don't know, because I haven't seen it with my own eyes. But there are people on both sides of that coin who say it's absolutely not happening, and people on the other side of the coin who say it absolutely is happening, and here's the evidence to prove that it is. So they would have to catch Putin somewhere. Yeah, Joe. And some people, some analysts make the argument that the United States, part of the reason why Putin hasn't gone nuclear yet and has been slow rolling in Ukraine is because the United States has such good intelligence on Putin's whereabouts and his actions and his locations at all times that Putin understands that if he was to do something dramatic, it would just be a matter of time before he had a happy accident. Maybe. Russia's investigative committee has described the ICC prosecutions, this warrant for Putin, and the claim of the illegal deportation of children from Ukraine as, quote, obviously illegal since there are no grounds for criminal liability, end quote. It also pointed to the 1973 UN Protection of Diplomats Convention, which grants heads of state absolute immunity from the jurisdiction of foreign countries. Well, that's cute. I didn't know that existed. 1973 UN Protection of Diplomats Convention, which grants heads of state, right, the top people in each country, absolute immunity from the jurisdiction of foreign countries, meaning you sue me all you want, I don't fall under your jurisdiction. The committee considers Khan's actions from the ICC a crime under Russian law for, quote, knowingly bringing an innocent person to criminal liability. Now, it's interesting that the argument for innocence here is not that these things aren't happening. It's that per the 1973 Protection of Diplomats Convention, that person doesn't fall under your jurisdiction. You can't arrest them. The committee considers Khan's actions a crime under Russian law for knowingly bringing an innocent person to criminal liability, combined with unlawfully accusing a person of committing a grave or especially grave crime. He is also charged with preparing an attack on a representative of a foreign state, quote, with the intention of complicating international relations. Putin has disregarded the ICC warrant as having no legal basis, with ex-President Dmitry Medvedev suggesting it was a sign of the collapse of international law. His words, not mine. He also described the ICC, quote, as shitty and wanted by nobody, end quote, and said it had a poor record of holding high-profile suspects accountable, explicit pro-Western bias, and had failed to investigate U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq. The Kremlin has officially reacted calmly to the ICC warrant. Vladimir Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, told RIA Novosti, which is a Russian outlet, on Monday that there are already plenty of, quote, openly hostile manifestations in relation to both our country and our president, end quote, and that taking it all to heart would not bring anything good. So, there are arrest warrants out for Putin. The likelihood of those warrants being served is incredibly low. There are allegedly arrest warrants out for Trump. We don't know if that's the case. They may be served, they may not be served. Keep your head on a swivel. It's a great day to do basic prepper stuff. There might have been 400,000 gallons of radioactive water dumped into the Mississippi River, but according to XL Energy, Monticello plant, nope. In Minnesota, nope, that didn't happen. Nothing to see here. All the water went into the holding tanks. It didn't go into the Mississippi River. It's going to be just fine. Maybe. And of course, Xi and Putin are getting together to talk today, right now, and with the biggest talks and the signing of 12 different special pieces of paper coming tomorrow. So it's a great day to do basic prepper stuff. Top off your water, top off your food, top off your fuel tanks. Maybe do a shakedown of your rucksack or your bug out bag. Take your bug out plan off the shelf, open the binder, dust it off, take a look at it and go, if things get stupid, I think we'll go here. And then maybe contact the people who's at here and say, hey, if things get stupid, I'm coming to your house, okay? And don't show up empty-handed. Bring all your prepper stuff. Preferably, you've already staged a whole bunch of your prepper stuff at whatever your bug out location is. Top off your sandbags. That's right, Patriot Plumber. In short, do the things. But don't do the things out of fear. Okay? Don't be fearful. We are commanded to fear one thing. Yahuwah our Elohim, the Lord our God. That's it. We are not given to a spirit of fear. But a prudent man foreseeth evil and hideth himself. This is Proverbs, right? So if you see the evil coming, right, you can see it coming. Bless you, Carrie. Thank you. Roger that. If the train is coming straight at you, dude, get off the tracks. Just get off the tracks. I don't know if you've noticed all these train derailments lately. Like, maybe don't be standing on the tracks. You're not going to stop the train. You're not going to stop the derailment. So don't be there. Don't participate in the busted up, broken, fragile system. As much as you're able to separate yourself from it, you should. And again, to that point, it doesn't mean don't engage in commerce, don't extract capital, don't provide goods and services to the fine people out there in the world. Because the other thing we have to remember is that the world is a mess, but it's also still, praise Yah, full of really good people. You and me, everybody else in the Bear Nation, all the people that we just haven't met yet that are like-minded, right? And so we have to be careful not to take this myopic worldview that everybody outside of us is all messed up. They're all a threat. And it's all going to be terrible. That these people are going to be the zombies knocking at my door at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to take my food and my daughters. Not necessarily, right? And so do not engage in prepper fantasy, fear porn bullshit, but with a practical mind, a sound mind, a stable mind, rooted in the Father. Be prudent. If you see evil, hide yourself from it. Get off the damn train tracks. It's going to come off the rails. Don't be there when it does. So it's a great day. It's a great day to do basic prepper stuff today. Plant your gardens, feed your flock, top off the propane. Make sure your vehicles have oil and blinker fluid and, fuel, tire pressure, all that stuff, right? Just basic prepper stuff. Because you never know. Messiah talks about in Matthew 24. Pray that your flight comes not at night or on the Sabbath day, right? Like it could come that fast, like a thief in the night. Pastor Joe likes to talk about we're 72 hours away from utter chaos at any moment in time. Yeah. Check those muffler bearings. That's right, Mark Chase. Check and grease them if they need to be greased, your muffler bearings. So, my point with all of this, and this is the brief for today. My point of all of this is, are there indicators on the global level today? Absolutely. Am I going to lose my shit over it? No, not even a little bit. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I want to keep encouraging y'all to keep doing what you're doing. Do the things, Bear Nation. We are not given to a spirit of fear. I submit to you that we may be the cadre for everybody else. All those good people out there that just don't know yet, we may be the cadre for everybody else who continues to wake up to this. And so don't harden your heart so much to the world that you lose the opportunity to witness to other people, to teach them, to lead them, to instruct them, to rebuke them, right? Shalom, Marty Preps. I appreciate you. We may be the cadre. That might be what the Father is ultimately preparing us for. You can't do that if you're insular and rooted in fear. That's not our job. Yeah, and the leaf spring solenoids for sure. And if for some reason one of your leaf spring solenoids isn't working, you can take a 10 millimeter wrench and just jump across the two contacts, and that'll get the leaf springs to settle back out again. So that's the brief for today. If you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, the value proposition that we bring on the other side of the camera, then this is your polite invitation to beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. For everybody who's interested in hearing about the value that we bring outside of this platform, stick around. We'll have a brief conversation on that. Yeah, definitely check your bumper pressure as well. Make sure your bumper is appropriately inflated. Sam off grid, bless you. Thank you. I lost my 10 millimeter. Everybody loses their 10 millimeter. Dude, you should have a spare stash of 10 and 14 millimeter sockets and wrenches. You remember when vehicles were like well made? And if you had a 10 millimeter, a 14 millimeter, and a slotted screwdriver, you could take an entire vehicle apart and put it back together again. Flux capacitors for sure. Check those. Piston return springs, super important. Yep. Your coolant injectors, those need to be checked while you're at it. Yep. Lube the pintle hitch. You guys know all the basic stuff. It's all right, Tommy. We know you support the show, brother. We know you support the show. I've gotten way too many grindstone checks from Tommy to feel like he doesn't get to leave right now. Bless you, brother. Ejection seat. Wow. Be careful when you're checking the ejection seat in your truck because you don't want that thing to pop off and fire, right? All right. Rotate your mirrors. That's a great suggestion. I haven't rotated my mirrors in years. Remember when they were 7/16, half inch, 9/16? I do remember that. Do you foresee a responder 2 and 3 class in the future-ish? Maybe. I foresee the dates that are available at refugetraining.com right now being the public dates that we have available for the foreseeable future, because we've got a bevy of private classes to do. We will also very likely be partnering with WAFT, which is West Orlando Firearms Training. WAFT is, they call it, and justly, they call it Tactical Disneyland. WAFT is a 20-acre facility outside of Orlando that is designed for scenario-based training and force-on-force. There's up to 35 students in a class, and the reason that's cool is WAFT has their own, they do scenarios in these places that they built themselves. Their own parking garage, their own gas station, their own cafe, coffee shop, their own restaurant, right? All designed for simunitions. And so when you run, so some of you who have been to Responder 3 have run the coffee shop scenario with role players, right? So when you run the coffee shop scenario at WAFT, there's a coffee shop with up to 35 students in it. And then aggressors come in, and what do? And everybody's all kitted up, headgear, body armor, power panties, etc. And everybody's got their blue guns. And somebody comes in and starts shooting up the place. What do we do? Right? And so WAFT is Tactical Disneyland. And Refuge Training will be doing some dates at WAFT. Power panties, Mike Bergman says. Yeah, they're like, they're basically padded shorts that have a cup in them, power panties, so that if you get shot below the belt line, you still have the ability to reproduce should you care to. Are the Tennessee classes full? I don't know. Let's go. Let's go over here. Right, that mouse is dead. We'll go to Refuge Training, www.refugetraining.com. All right, mouse. You know what? I'm just going to move this mouse away from me so that I quit trying to use it. I click training, and then I go to training schedule. I still see some R1 Responder 1 classes for Camden, Tennessee currently available. I'll grab the link and drop it in the chat. I will be at Self-Reliance Festival this weekend. So Friday morning and Friday afternoon, we're doing Responder 1 classes in Camden, Tennessee at the Self-Reliance Festival. Just me. Praise Yah. That's awesome. So if you're already coming to Self-Reliance Festival, or you want to come to Self-Reliance Festival, or you want to get trained and you're anywhere around Camden, Tennessee, come to class. I will be there. Stalwart Peacekeeper will be there. Cap will be there. Foe will be there. Mad Kelt will be there. Some of our role players will be there. So it'll be a good time. So yes, there are still some seats left apparently for the Tennessee class. And there's a bunch of other classes available. I will grab the overall link to all the training classes. I see Auburn, Alabama, Waco, Texas, Boise, Idaho, Tell City, Indiana, currently available. And I would encourage y'all to find a class that's near you, come to class. We travel the country doing this. Ascension, bless you. For all the way from the communist state of California. Well, you should be able to get to Idaho, man. Come to class in Idaho. But we travel the country doing this stuff. And so we hear a lot of like, Bear, when are you going to be in, East Overshoe, Indiana? Probably never. Probably never. So find the class that's closest to you and then sign up for that class. And you can use promo code Bear Nation at Refuge Training for some of these classes, or for any of these classes. Any classes planned for Ohio? If we do Ohio again, it'll be the end of the year. It's a big if. Will there be any more classes coming to Pennsylvania? I will know the middle of this year if/when we're doing more public classes this year. We have a lot of private classes to do. I think we have 13 private classes on the books. And then we have some very large clients who want us to do multiple classes for hundreds of their employees. So we have to balance the public availability of refuge training classes for y'all, the Bear Nation, against the private demand for refuge training by some of these large agencies and organizations. So refugetraining.com, check it out. Come to class. Refuge Medical. Hopefully you guys saw we launched the pre-order for the American-Made STOMP 2.0 yesterday. That's being done as a pre-order because of the lead time on the bags. But I would get one while you can. They are the biggest, most comprehensive, best first aid kit we've ever made. That's it. Bear Stand is being founded in Indiana, and I'm naming it East Overshoe. Sarah, if you build it, we will come. You need to have room for lots of people, okay? So Stomp 2.0 has launched at refugemedical.com. Go check that out. Get on the pre-order if you need to get one. There are still a handful of Stomp 1.0s available. If you want to save a couple of bucks on that, you can. Promo code is Bear Nation for free shipping on everything that's in the store. And of course, everything that's in the store is HSA and FSA eligible. You guys know this is the flagship, the Bear Fac. 69 lives saved to date. Absolutely incredible. We have such a freaking cool job. These are handmade. They're made in America. They're guaranteed forever. If you break this, I will replace it at no cost to you. If you use the components in this kit to save a life, or any of our kits to save a life, I will replace them at no cost to you. You guys know the drill. It comes in this, look at the stitching on this, by the way. Like, look at this. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Comes in this nylon outer pouch, right? You can attach this to anything that's Molly or Pal's webbing compatible. It's got these bar tack Molly on the side, so you can add a tourniquet or shears or flashlight or chem light or whatever you want to the outside. It's just additional attachment points on the 3.0 pouch, right? And then you rip this open, rip the top open. I have an additional tourniquet in the top right here, and it's been a while since we put tourniquets on, so I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of value here, some quick instruction on how to use one of these. Okay, so you put your thumb on the C-clip. We call this the rule of thumb. This is the C-clip up here. You put your thumb on the C-clip. That way, whichever arm or leg I put it on, move this down just a little bit, the tail is pointed towards my center line because we can apply more pressure pulling than we can pushing. Okay, so rule of thumb, you put your thumb on the C-clip. If I put it on this arm, the tail's pointed towards my center line. If I'm holding it in my left hand, put my thumb on the C-clip, put it on, tail is pointed towards the center line, so I can pull towards my center line. Okay, we apply tourniquets high and tight. The old doctrine was 3 inches above the wound. The reason for that is, let's say I had a wound right here. Okay, the reason for that is your arteries are under tension like a rubber band, and if they break, they can pull back into the wound. And the tourniquet works by compressing the bleeding vessel, the artery, against the bone structure. And so if I don't put the tourniquet far enough up past the wound, I'm not pinching off that severed artery, which has potentially contracted inside of the musculature. So rather than going 2 to 3 inches above the wound, which is old doctrine, we go high and tight. Because this, if I put the tourniquet up here, it'll get this whole arm. Whatever's happening on this arm, it'll get the whole arm. We don't put it on the joint because joints move and it'll come loose. So we go just below the shoulder joint. And there's actually a little pocket right here, like right here where the bicep inserts, right there. See that pocket? That's where we want to hit, is that pocket right there. Okay, so rule of thumb, grab it, slide it on, pull towards the center line. We want to keep the windlass in our workspace. What I mean by that is I don't want it on the back here where I can't get to it. I want it right here. Not inside my arm, not on top of my arm, not behind my arm, just right about right here, okay? Kind of at an angle. And then you're going to cinch this tight. And when you cinch this tight, that already starts to compress the artery. We're going to push this back right here, the tail, until it's right before the C-clip, okay? Then we're going to turn this sucker. And it is one turn past bad words. Right here, it starts to hurt. One more turn. Tourniquets, when they're applied appropriately, they hurt, okay? Then I put the windlass inside the C-clamp. I take the tail and I run it in between the C-clamp like that. Take the time tab, go over the top. Christopher Thomas, Bear just got back from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, ER3. I failed some scenarios miserably, but learned life-saving skills and what not to do. Thank you and the excellent staff for the excellent experience. Bless you, Christopher Thomas. Thank you. Thank you. But if you look at the back of my hand, you can already see a change in color, and you can begin to see the vascularity popping up on the back of my hand. That's because the blood flow has been constricted from here down, which is the point. That's what we want. We don't want blood to flow because I could be bleeding out. That's how you apply a cat tourniquet. It's that simple, man. Then when you're done to restage this, you're going to take the time tab, put it off at a 45-degree angle so I can get at that without fine motor skills. Pull this out, and instantly it releases. Take the windlass out and spin it back to normal. Undo the end. Pull this out. We're going to stretch this out because there's an inner band in here that does the constricting, right? Then to restage, we go through the buckle, pull about 6 to 8 inches out. Take this end, the red end, fold over the last 1.5 inches. The reason for that is I don't need fine motor skills to grab this tab. If I need it and I need it quick, I can just grab that, okay? That's how a cat tourniquet works. I'm gonna fold up at the buckle, like so, and then down, like so. That's a staged cat tourniquet, ready to go. Now, we sell these and 100 other pieces of critical life-saving components at refugemedical.com. All of our stuff's made in America. We're super passionate about that. You can find kits, components, all types of stuff, modules, all at refugemedical.com. Your promo code is BearNation for free shipping on everything in the store. I'll tell you point blank, the availability of this stuff is getting more and more weird by the day. There's still literal tons of stuff being shipped, not by us, but by other companies, manufacturers, and wholesalers to Ukraine every day. There are tons, tens of tons, hundreds of tons per day of stuff being gobbled up by the DLA, which is the Defense Logistics Agency, which works under the DoD, the Department of Defense, to maintain stockpiles of critical stuff that should we go to war, they have it available on hand. And the DLA is buying up stuff left and right. They started doing that February 24th, 2022, when Russia first went into Ukraine. And then they slowed down significantly for a little bit. And then about a month ago, they started ramping up again. So I don't know exactly what DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, thinks is coming, but I know that they're buying more stuff now than they were when Ukraine first got invaded by Russia. So that's an indicator to me. Tia Roberts just got a video saying my kit is ready to ship. I'm so excited. Thank you, Bear. Thank you, Tia. That's awesome. That's another thing we do. Like when we pack your order, we send you a text video saying, hey, Tia, what's up? It's Bear from refugemedical.com. I got your red Bear Fact 3.0 right here. It's going out right now. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Right? So that you can see, yep, that's my order right there. That's awesome. So, hope Refuge is good. Just checking in. Shalom, Third Eye. Thank you, Will Parker. So we have all that stuff at refugemedical.com. They're the best kits on the face of the earth. We have the best customer service. We guarantee our stuff forever. And it's not price point garbage. It will actually save your life. And I know that because our kits have worked 69 times in under 4 years. Praise Yah. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, grindstoneministries.com. Grindstone is a disaster relief and construction ministry. And when there's a hurricane or a tornado or flooding or fire, we deploy and we go be the hands and feet. We are 100% dependent upon your donations. So thank you, every one of y'all. Grindstone is building, as part of its construction ministry, is building Caleb House. Caleb House is our other 501c3. Caleb House is a restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors. It's a bunch of $50 words, meaning Caleb House is a safe place that kids who have been sold as product and serially raped their whole lives can go so that nobody hurts them again and so that we can raise them up in the way that they should go so they do not depart from it when they are older. We've got 24 kids in our care right now. It costs us operationally $30,000 a month to take care of those 24 kids, to provide everything they need. Their, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, educational, financial needs are all met by us. And we put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse here, and we went and rescued on multiple occasions multiple kids before we had the restoration facility built, because we could not sit back and let terrible things continue to happen to those kids and not do anything about it. So now we find ourselves in a situation where we've got a $30,000 per month operational cost to take care of the kids that we already have, while simultaneously fundraising $1.5 million to build the restoration facility. And that's fine. It's Yah's plan, not mine. It's Yah's money, not mine. It's Yah's time, not mine. But please know that we are being 100% diligent with whatever funds that you send us to take care of those kiddos and also to build Caleb House. So that's what we're all about. There's links in the description for all these things. You can find Caleb House hoodies, long sleeves, and t-shirts that are expensive, but so is anti-human trafficking at the store at grindstoneministries.com. There's a link in the description. My brother Saw also has his Facts Not Feelings shirt that portion of the proceeds go to help fund Caleb House. And my brother Rex has the Real Dope shirt, link in the description, that a portion of those proceeds go to help fund the building of Caleb House. So, you know, support a good cause or don't, however the spirit moves. Because I guarantee you there's 1,000 other ministries out there too that need somebody's help. And so if the spirit has impressed upon you to serve somebody else, that's fine. I don't ever want to be found working against the spirit, working against the Father. But, you know, if you feel so convicted to partner up with us in our ongoing battle against, you know, child sex trafficking, there's a link in the description, Grindstone Ministries. Caleb House hoodies are so freaking warm and soft. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you, brother. If charity doesn't hurt a little, you're not doing it right. Remember the widow that gave all that she had. Bless you, Palmetto. To be honest, I'm willing to pay for that hoodie, not an Origin hoodie, though. Good works, Brother Bear. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a blessed day. I'll see you soon. Shalom.